Kanda, Estrata, Tatum, Hazam, Sobar, Yergretz, Gat, Nosferatos, Amantos, Kanda. Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are looking at the NECA Evil Dead 2 Deadite Ash. I've been a big fan of the Evil Dead movies for a while now, so I was super psyched to hear we were getting something other than another Army of Darkness figure. Don't get me wrong, I love Army of Darkness. But Evil Dead 2 is arguably the best of the three. I kind of go back and forth in my head if I like Army of Darkness or Evil Dead 2 better, but I was very happy to see NECA coming out with these figures. Now, the Deadite Ash was short-packed from what I saw at my local Toys R Us. There were probably a good 4 or 5 of the Farewell to Arms Ash, and only 2 of these guys. At least 2 left on the pegs when I got there. Taking a look first off at his accessories, we'll start with the one you already saw, and this is the tape recorder that Ash plays and kind of awakens the Deadites, unleashes the evil spirits through the recitation of the passages. And it looks really, really good. I don't even know if I can get all the detail on camera, but the 2 reels, you can actually see the tape wound up in the reels. It comes down here. You got the little knobs, you got a power button, there's a switch, and I watched the movie and the switch is in the on position. You flip it over in the bottom, it's got some little brackets that I guess it would stand on. On the complete bottom, it also has some more little standy points. Looks like a battery compartment. Speaker down here. On this side here, we have like another speaker grate, and then we have some like audio output jacks. Handle here on the top. Another looks like a headphone jack with another speaker. So it's a very, very highly detailed little accessory. Granted, the figure can't hold it or anything, but he wouldn't. But it'll be good just to sit in front of the figures and have as a display item. But I am so impressed by how much detail they crammed into this little piece. Next up, we have Linda's head. The severed head. You can see down here we got the blood and gore. It's kind of really, really bright red on my camera right now, but it is a little darker. Got her hair all poofed out. Her sharp little teeth. Kind of whited out eyes, dirt and blood and gunk all over her face. Another cool accessory. It's funny to see a human head that's done well that actually feels less detailed than the record player. I almost wish they would have given us this one with an open mouth. We have the Deadite Ash, we have the hand with the other Ash, it's all infected and everything. I kind of would have wished we would have had her with the open mouth so that we could almost reenact the scene of infection. And last but not least for accessories, we have a Necronomicon, a Book of the Dead. Now, seeing pictures of this, I thought we were getting the exact same book we got with the Medieval Ash from NECA. And it's the exact same sculpt from what I can tell, but if we bring that book in, this one's huge, and the one with the Deadite Ash is much smaller, much more of a standard paperback size when you put it in the figure's hand, which kind of surprised me. Just for further comparison, I'll pull in the McFarlane Book of the Dead from their Army of Darkness figure, and it's pretty much in scale with the NECA one, the old NECA one at least, so this is a kind of a new scale for the Necronomicon here. As far as Ash goes in this line, we're basically getting the same exact figure twice with some different switched out parts. So the star of this figure is the head sculpt, the Deadite head sculpt. And I'm really digging it. My biggest complaint is that he looks a lot like Elvis, which is kind of weird to say that Bruce Campbell looks a lot like Elvis, because I'm a big fan of Bubba Hotep. But I really do like the head sculpt. It's a pretty good Bruce Campbell sculpt. He's got his hair all slicked back from the mud and gunk. He's all bloody and nasty. He's got the extended chin put on there. Open mouth pose, which I think is really cool. They're all gross and grimy teeth. His eyes are totally whited out. If you look closely, you could almost see the pupils are still in there but painted over, which is a nice touch. I overall really just like it. The blood on his head has a real nice glossy, shiny look, which is a very cool touch to the figure. The rest of the body is pretty good for what it is. He has his shirt on, the shirt that Ash wears in the movie. It's all once again dirty and grimy and gross and nasty. The way they did this is kind of interesting. It shows that they are reusing a lot of parts throughout this series, because once we get into the endgame Ash, of course, the shirt will be torn up and stuff. So this is actually a rubbery piece. If you bend him up at the waist, you could actually even see the flesh underneath, which is a little annoying, because trying to get him into some poses, you kind of get a peek of the plumber's crack or whatever going on there. And since the shirt's sculpted to be tucked into his pants, it looks a little odd. But the shirt is well sculpted. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between the hard sculpted arms and the rubbery shirt, which is good. It doesn't look like one piece really stands out. There's great detail on it. It has all his buttons going up and the pockets and everything. On the back here, still good detail, good wrinkle texture. Coming down to his pants, he's got his black belt with actually a silver buckle and all the little belt loops, which are great. You can see the stitching on his clothing, even has the pockets on the side and on the back. Though with the articulation, the sculpt on here really gets broken up quite a bit, which is a little bit of a bummer. But the pants are, once again, grimy and gross and dirty. He's got his work boots on. These aren't quite as well detailed. There's no real paint detailing to them. The sculpt is nice, but they're not really heavily paint detailed. His hands are just dirty human hands, nothing too fancy about them. But I do have a bit of a problem. Now, Ash turns into Deadite Ash twice in the movie, if I remember correctly. Once is when he's out in the forest, and later on, it's towards the very end of the movie. Now, the bloodstains on his head, to me, suggest that he's towards the end of the movie in this sculpt, and yet he has two hands, which he kind of shouldn't have. Though, if you watch the movie, there's a lot of times where they don't bandage up the right hand, and it is Ash with two hands as Deadite Ash, but that's a goof in the movie, so it's kind of weird that we got him with just this. Of course, with the Farewell to Arms Ash, he does have the missing arm, so theoretically you could take that and put it on here. Another gripe I have with the sculpt is the neck is totally clean. And I understand wanting to reuse parts and all that, but in the movie his neck is not normal. It's messed up like the face. And even if they just did some darker, grosser paint around it, I think it could have made up for the fact that they didn't want to resculpt it. But I would have liked the neck to look a little more Deadite-y. For articulation, he has a ball-jointed head, though it is pretty stiff on mine, but you do get a good range of motion. He has pin and socket shoulders with a full range of motion. He can bend and swivel at the elbow. Ball-jointed wrists. He has a ball-jointed, not exactly a waist, the joint is about here if you pull up his shirt and look. And it's about the same what they put on the Freddy Krueger figures. I do like it, because if the shirt pulls up, you don't have a big joint exposed there, but you still get basically the same motion. He has a V-cut in the crotch, which I'm not a big fan of. I feel like they could have done a little better. I'm glad there is leg articulation. That's something we don't always get out of NECA, but the V crotch just seems a little weird. It breaks up the sculpt in a weird way. I'm just not a big fan. He has a swivel in the upper leg, bend and swivel at the knee, and a ball-jointed foot. I almost forgot to mention that this side of his pants are shredded, and you can actually even see the sock and the leg underneath, which is a really cool attention to detail. While the upper body articulation I like, the lower body articulation kind of makes it hard to put him in a normal pose. His legs are almost permanently kind of out to the side and gives him a very wide stance no matter what you do. I would have liked to be able to just stand him up kind of more straight, but what can you do? At least we got leg articulation this time. And here I have Deadite Ash with the arm off Farewell to Arms Ash. As with most of NECA's newer figures, like the Terminator and the Nightmare on Elm Street figures, the arms can be detached at the elbow. You can see here, we have the peg coming off the arm, and that's the old arm off the figure. So easy enough to mix and match the parts if you want to have a more movie-accurate look to the figure. Overall, I like the Deadite Ash figure. I think he came out pretty darn good. Granted, from this wave, he's not the one of the two that I wanted the most. Ironically, he's the one I bought first, just for the fact that there were fewer of him on the pegs. At this point, it's my fourth Ash figure, and Out of my other 3 that I have, it's always the Evil Ash from Army of Darkness that I like the least. And I kind of feel like this is one of those ones that it's cool that I have a Deadite Ash, but he's not going to be front and center on my display. But that is a personal preference. Overall, I think the figure is pretty well executed, and even though I'm not totally in love with the figure, even though I have some faults with it, if you're a fan of Evil Dead, he is worth a pickup. It's just one of those toys that I really wish I loved the concept more than I do, because there's not much chance of getting a better Evil Ash figure than this anytime in the near future. So, it's just cool to see and cool to have, but he just doesn't do everything he could for me. This has been another Outside the Box review. Stay tuned for more to come.